Team principals react to Andretti Cadillac F1 bid. Civil war between the FIA and Liberty Media, massive American manufacturers entering the sport, and the prospect of a three-way title race? The 2023 preseason news cycle has it all. Surprisingly for some and not for others, the Andretti Cadillac-backed bid to join the Formula One grid for the 2026 season has been met with harsh criticism from the teams privately, despite FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem championing the news on Twitter. However, while all the objections have been voiced behind the scenes until now, we have finally had the opportunity to hear from the bosses of the top F1 teams of what they think of the new entry proposal, and it's just as spicy as what you would have expected. So strap in as we take a look at the startling reactions of the top F1 team principals and what it all means for Andretti's efforts. Toto Wolff snubs Andretti Cadillac bid. Andretti joined forces with General Motors and their Cadillac brand earlier this month, announcing a co-venture in a bid to get their car on the Formula One grid. It followed nearly a year of back and forth between Andretti and F1, with the family of 1978 F1 world champion Mario Andretti receiving a lukewarm response to their bid. Michael Andretti, Mario's son and the venture's leader, believed the General Motors partnership had checked the final box. But it appears Mercedes team principal Toto Wolff was not so sure. With Cadillac and GM, that's a statement, Wolff said. Them joining forces with Andretti is definitely a positive. It gives it another angle that may or may not be beneficial for Formula One. Nobody would ever question GM's or Cadillac's pedigree in motorsport and as a global auto company. We're guessing Toto Wolff did not make Michael Andretti's Christmas card list, because if the opposition to the Andretti bid could be personified by one man, it would be the Mercedes boss. Wolff brings up value argument against Andretti. Wolff has been the most vocal opponent of Andretti's proposed entry, claiming that his and the other 9 teams would suffer as a result of their profit margins being reduced even further. While fans' dissatisfaction grows, Mercedes' team principal has every right to prioritize his team's interest over those of the sport. The Andretti bid is based on the idea of opening up the American market. But with 3 US races this year and 2 teams unveiling their cars in New York City, some argue that the American dream has already been realized. Wolff's consistent response has been to question the value of the Andretti bid, while Michael Andretti was confident that it had been delivered with General Motors backing. Wolff's comments indicate that he is still not convinced. The Andretti family is in the process of preparing its application to the FIA's new Expression of Interest protest. But even if they get the sport's governing body on board, the most difficult task remains convincing Formula One owners and teams that they are a worthy addition. Christian Horner calls for sensible approach. The news of the American team's potential bid to join the Formula One grid has divided the paddock, with FIA President Mohammed bin Sulayem opening an expressions of interest process for new teams to join the field and welcoming Andretti's interest. However, F1 and most of the current teams on the grid reacted more cautiously to the news, with a statement from the sport reminding people that the teams, F1 and the FIA must all agree on expanding the grid in the future. However, the specifics surrounding Andretti have been discussed for some time, with team owner Michael Andretti previously failing in his attempts to buy Sauber, Haas and form his own constructor, effectively being told by the FIA that he must team up with a manufacturer if his entry is to have any weight. He's done so in Cadillac, but Formula One appears to be dragging its feet and failing to warm to the idea. And Red Bull boss Christian Horner dismissed the notion that any reservations are due to Andretti specifically. Instead, the Red Bull team principal believes that the next Concord Agreement, the terms under which the teams operate with the FIA and Formula One, would be a good place to iron out the issues they currently have with each other. This view would be common to any team. It's irrelevant, Horner said about the caution surrounding Andretti's interest. As I said, to have the Andretti brand and name and Cadillac in Formula One would be fantastic, and hopefully a solution can be found. You can understand the FIA, they've got no financial consequence of this because they don't participate in the prize fund and they'd receive further entry fees for more teams coming in. So you can understand the FIA potentially wanting more teams on the grid, but I think they need to find alignment with the commercial rights holder, and the 2026 Concord Agreement would seem the right place to deal with that. It just needs all parties to have a sensible conversation and agree on something that is practical and workable. The Ford-Red Bull deal shows how Andretti Cadillac can win F1 over. Glorified sponsorship disguised as engine supply, no real investment or technological input, and thus not a genuine Formula One manufacturer project. That was the most cynical interpretation of Andretti and General Motors' Cadillac-branded bid for a new F1 team. It's also how some see Ford's recently announced return to F1 with Red Bull. It's understandable that this news has sparked questions like, if Ford can enter by piggybacking on someone else, why is Andretti's General Motors deal not good enough? One argument is that it's all a ruse, with General Motors simply approving the use of one of its brand's names so that Andretti can claim it'll run as a works team with manufacturer backing and get on the grid, while General Motors benefits from having an F1 team with minimal input. This is exacerbated by the perception that Andretti using a customer Renault engine and calling it a Cadillac undermines the commitment of the real engine manufacturers. In other words, F1 stakeholders are skeptical that it would be a General Motors works team, and if it isn't, it shouldn't be approved. Without getting into a point-scoring contest, the Ford deal appears to be viewed differently by F1. Investing in and contributing to another manufacturer's engine program represents a more tangible involvement than simply purchasing a sticker or putting your name on a list. So, while it's not a direct Ford project, it will contribute to the Red Bull powertrain's engine, and there appears to be a genuine belief that Ford will be properly involved with the battery and energy recovery systems. And that's exactly how Ford is pitching it. But we should take that with a grain of salt. It's the same as the counter-argument made by Andretti and General Motors, who have stated that they would assist with car development and would own intellectual property in the engine taken from Renault. You can't just take one manufacturer's word for it and dismiss another. Clearly, some see the Ford deal as paying for the right to call itself an F1 engine supplier while masquerading as something more. Red Bull has a history of attracting high-profile sponsors for its F1 engines. Tag Heuer did it, and more importantly, Aston Martin did it as a low-cost entry into F1 prior to Lawrence Stroll. But ignoring whether the Ford or General Motors F1 projects are legitimate, the merits of the Ford deal may just hint at how Andretti and Cadillac can win a place on the grid. This Red Bull deal represents an excellent value-for-money entry into F1. It requires far less time and effort than starting a new works team, buying an existing team, or building its own engine from the ground up. Ford will not enter Formula One in 2026 in the same way that Audi did. However, it is still welcomed with open arms and great fanfare. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that. It's a cross between a full-fledged works team and a jazzed-up sponsor. Ford found a happy medium because Red Bull, as an independent organization, represented a unique offering as an engine manufacturer. It's a win-win situation for both parties, and F1 benefits as well. There's no indication of significant F1 opposition to this Red Bull-Ford partnership, implying that it is accepted that there is no single way a manufacturer must do F1. There's some leeway in what a manufacturer can do. Perhaps Andretti and GM have found their own middle ground, their own wiggle room, with a different kind of opportunity to enter a team in the name of a major US manufacturer. On paper, that still appears to be as strong as the day it was announced. So if F1 and the FIA are both genuinely interested in expanding the grid for the right team, Ford's not quite full works program should persuade Andretti that all it really needs to do is make a compelling case that Cadillac General Motors support goes beyond a badging deal. It would be a shame if the answers to the opposition to Andretti was as simple as, no outsiders are welcome, even if the desire to be cautious and protect the existing entries is completely justified. But if Andretti makes a strong enough case, it's difficult to see how one manufacturer, which may only be contributing a small amount to an engine program, can have the red carpet rolled out, while another, which may be supporting an entire team, can have the rug pulled out from under it. What are your thoughts about the Andretti-Cadillac saga? Do you believe the team deserves a chance in Formula One? What about the Ford-Red Bull collaboration? Please let us know in the comments section below. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking it and subscribing. Be sure to click the bell icon to be notified of future uploads. Thanks for watching.